It's Monday on the Redbird Rush Hour. Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. So much to talk about with the Cardinals right now. Not a lot of it good at the moment, but there's a lot of material, man. And we got an hour together with the three of us, and then Matt, you got the 2 hours of Sports Open Line. I don't think we're going to get to everything in these 3 hours.
No, there's a lot that happened over the last few days. A tough weekend where losing 3 out of 4 against Milwaukee is not what you were looking for. If you want to spin it in a positive way, you can say 2 of the losses were winnable games, 1-run games. But look, bottom line is they lost 3 out of 4, where you really needed to find at least one more win in the weekend.
Yeah, and guys, I think that this was, in my opinion, given sort of the fact they wanted a series from the Dodgers, the Cardinals were still viewed as a team that, was right in there. I think that what happened, and it actually started with the Dodgers game, so I'm cheating a little bit, but I think that the Cardinals just had their worst week of the season.
Yeah.
1-6 starting Monday, 1-7, including the Dodgers loss. And, Matt, to your point, though, the Cardinals did have, against the Blue Jays and the Brewers, in both of those series, they had 2 1-run games in each series. But their lack of offense, and particularly with runners in scoring position, really killed them because the situational hitting in close games has got to be really, really good.
Well, and that's a thing that this team is built upon, right? What was going right in May? In May, you were doing a good job of moving runners along, of stringing hits together. If you're a team that's not going to be about the home run, which they are not, I mean, I think Contreras will finish with a respectable total. Maybe Herrera will be a guy that hits some homers. Hopefully Gorman gets some more at-bats to see if he hits some homers. But this is not a team that drives its offense based on home runs. So you have to be good with runners in scoring position for that kind of offense to be consistent. So even though we've seen where it can look good, and it'll probably get back to that at some point, right? I mean, at some point, you won't have 5 guys struggling all at the same time, and it'll get better. But in these moments, it's kind of like we talked with pitching last week, right, guys? I mean, we talked about when you give up a lot of contact, at some point it's going to work against you. The only way to prevent that is to get more swings and misses. Well, you don't have that. Well, you also don't have the team that can make up for several guys slumping with 2 guys hitting a bunch of home runs. It's just not how they're built.
Exactly right. And one of the things they're going to have to do too, and I don't think I'm jumping the topic here, one thing I'm looking for in this Chicago White Sox series, the Cardinals need to get off to better starts.
Yeah.
They don't score enough runs early in games, and the other teams are beating up the Cardinals starting pitchers in the first 2 innings. And so it seems like they're just always playing from behind. And as much as I think this team's got a great fighting spirit and all of that stuff, they're making it really, really difficult for themselves. And it's not easy to make comebacks when, you're down in a deficit and it sort of repeats itself over and over again early in ball games.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to something that we said before the season got started. The margin of error for this team is razor thin. So when I am not in no way, shape, or form am I blaming what's going on right now on batted ball luck, because they're not playing good enough right now. But when batted ball luck does start going in the wrong direction, it's going to be even more pronounced in your ability to win baseball games or inability to win baseball games. All that's got, when your closer has a fastball that you're hitting 400 against, it becomes that much tougher. When you're not scoring early runs, to Bernie's point, like, you have to do so many things well to overcome the slight margin of error that they have. And look at yesterday's game in particular. 2 moments in the game, a play that's not made at shortstop by Barrero that Mason Wynn may have made, and that's Mason Wynn has to get his days off. I'm sure Oliver
100%.
Marmol is sitting there like kicking himself because he didn't start Wynn in that moment. You can't start Wynn every game.
No.
And then there's also the wild pitch moment where you've got to be thinking, well, if it's not Ivan Herrera back there, does that ball get blocked? So those are 2 very specific examples of plays that have been made at other times this season that were not made yesterday, and you lose the dang ball game by 1 run.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yep. Sums it up. And this kind of, Bernie, I brought this up with you on DGS today. I don't know if you heard it, Matt, but I used the analogy that this is like an unsolvable Rubik's Cube for the Cardinals. Because if they put enough of the good hitters in, then they have defensive problems. And they have too many guys still for too few spots on the infield, and we're not willing to sit Arenado out to get Gorman in more. We're not willing to move Donovan to the outfield to get Gorman in more, but Gorman's one of the only guys hitting on the team. The only other way to do that is to have Herrera catch more, which is going to take away from defense at your most critical position. So we have all of these things, and through roster construction and also through the team's emphasis on defense, which I do generally agree with. Like, I'm a defense guy. Like, let's catch the baseball, But at some point, you're boxed in where we don't want to do this with this guy and we don't want to do that with that guy. Well, you can't put your today's best lineup in the lineup if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is, because, Kevin, you and I were discussing this on the Dave Glover show. It's, because the lack of options on the bench, like, in other words, well, maybe they can change the mix. Maybe they can try different guys. And the problem with that is there's not really many attractive alternatives on the bench.
No.
There are some guys at AAA Memphis that could help them, but they're stubbornly refusing to try that. And so what are you going to do when the manager's trying to balance offense versus defense? He's got a pitching staff it's got a terrible strikeout rate.
Right.
The ball's going to be in play a lot. And we've seen sort of some of the repercussions when the defense is not as sharp as usual. You're right. It is a Rubik's Cube. I mean, it's like no matter which way you go, where you prioritize offense or you prioritize defense, if you pick one over the other as the priority for a game, you're vulnerable in the other area.
That's right. That's kind of it, right? And again, you're a pretty decent team if you're playing Donovan in left, especially when Nootbaar's struggling like this, right? When Noot's been bad for as long as he's been bad, but he's got a bad toe, and they want to have better second base defense. Well, okay, but that means you're not going to have a lineup. You're not going to have the offense that you want, because the only way to get the other bat, there's only one bat on the bench that helps, and that's Gorman. That's the only one. And you can't get him in without doing the Donovan to left field thing or without Herrera catching. Either way, it's a sacrifice.
I kind of wish that Ollie, and he said it to us a little bit last Tuesday, Bernie, but it wasn't a really strong statement. I wish Ollie would just come out and say, look, we're really not going to play Donovan in the outfield very often. It's going to be an extreme situation. We don't like him there. He's putting up an all-star season at second base. We think that he's more vulnerable to get injured in the outfield. That's not a thing, because then we can kind of stop talking about it and we can use the situation at hand. But as long as the idea that Donovan can still be thrown out there every once in a while, that keeps us talking that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's something they want to do right now.
Well, listen, Nolan Gorman has got to play.
Yeah.
Because with this offense dragging the way it's been, I mean, it's really dragging during their 5-11 stretch since May 30th. I mean, they're averaging 3.7 runs per game. They've scored 2 or fewer runs in 8 of the 16 games. And I gave this one out earlier today on Dave Glover's show. Among Cardinals that have 45 plate appearances since May the 26th, Gorman leads the team in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, walk rate, and weighted runs created plus. He's 105% above the league average offensively since May the 26th. He leads the team in all those categories. Why would he be sitting on the bench unless there is a really, really, really nasty lefty that Gorman wouldn't have much of a chance to hit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that's part of that Rubik's Cube, because they're not willing to change certain things. And if you're not, well, then he can't be in there the way that you've built your roster. And that's what I want to talk about next. We got a lot to do. It's the Redbird Rush Hour. I mean, like I said, we're not going to get to everything. Some of this may spill into the rest of the week. But I do want to talk about that next. I'm going to say this. We're not going to talk trade deadline. But forgetting buying or selling, take that out. Clearly, this team needs massive change to the offensive side of this roster. We'll talk a bit about how you might go about that and what you need to weigh plus versus minus when we get back here on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Cardinal Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen and Eddie Scholler from the world famous
Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation. That's sidingexpress.com. I'm Roger Brand in the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX. Matt Pauley, Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler talking Cardinals baseball with you for an hour. Then you got Sports Open line after that, so you're going to get more Cardinals baseball, plus a few other things. A little U.S. Open, some other things, right?
Mainly Cardinals, maybe a little U.S. Open.
All
Dan
right.
Reardon's going to be with us at about 7:35. But outside of that, I think it's going to be just about nothing but Cardinal baseball.
All right. So I want to forget the part of this conversation that has to do with whether the Cardinals will be buyers or sellers, right? A few weeks ago, they looked like a team that could be a buyer. Now they look like a team that would be a seller. I want to take that out.
Yeah.
But what's very
Thank you.
Yeah. What is very clear, though, whether you are buyers or sellers for this particular deadline, this is a roster that needs a lot of maintenance right now. They need to clean some things out. They need to simplify because as we look at it now, we're already talking about all these issues about defense. Well, if we do that, we can't play the right bat. If we can't play the right bat, we don't score enough runs. And now you got Sajasi waiting in the wings, who plays the same positions as all these other guys. And J.J. Weatherholt is destroying Double-A, should be in Memphis, and probably will be by the 4th of July. He's going to be pushing for a major league job next spring at the latest.
Yeah.
So you have to move some of this out, right? And if you're going to, philosophically for you guys, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to get the best possible return, or are you looking to keep the best assets that will help you for next year? Because I find that changes who you're going to look to move. For example, selling on Gorman is hard unless you give him a long run of being great, which might get you a good return. Donovan's going to get you a good return, like probably a great return, but he's a really important player for now and for next year, and he's important in the clubhouse. So I think it's interesting to try to weigh what are you trying to do with the movement you have to make, because if you don't do anything, you're going to have this continuing and adding to it over the next year or two.
It's a puzzle.
Well, yeah, it is. You think, see, this is why it's so critical for Gorman to continue hitting the way he is. And his bat speed's improved, by the way.
Yeah.
Now he's crushing four-seam fastballs. But the better Gorman is offensively, and the longer it continues up until the trading deadline, and I'm not advocating trading him, but the better he is, the more options you have.
Correct.
You know, you can take a whole different approach with how you utilize them. Like you said, Mr. Wheeler, you know, Herrera catches more, that frees up DH for Gorman. On the other hand, if a couple teams are knocking on the door, maybe the Cardinals have a bigger fish in mind, but they really want Gorman. If Gorman's going really well, then he would at least draw some interest. And I don't know whether the Cardinals would act on it or not. I'd be very reluctant to give up on him. But guys, like we're talking about, what are you going to do? I mean, J.J. Weatherholt ain't going to be the starting shortstop next year. He might be the starting second baseman. But then again, if Ali is convinced, it's like, oh, hell or high water, we have to have Donovan at second base all the time. Okay, well, where's Weatherholt going to go? Is he going to go? You going to bench Arenado next year and play Weatherholt at third? It's just the never-ending island of misfit toys.
Matt, you had a thought on this when we were texting earlier about how to handle the Arenado thing.
Okay, so if you finally decide that you're going to move on from Arenado, my thought, the way you stomach it, because I know the Cardinals do not want to stomach paying Nolan Arenado a ton of money to go play for another team. So here, I'm going to play counselor here, or psychologist or something. if John Mozeliak and Chaim Bloom and everybody is listening to me, this is the way you frame it in your mind to make it work. You combine Brendan Donovan and Nolan Arenado, and you put those two salaries together. So you're probably picking up somewhere between $15 and $20 million for Arenado,
Nolan, yeah.
And then you're probably paying Donovan's at 5 right now after arbitration.
He's probably looking at 9-ish in arbitration.
All right, so you combine those two numbers together, whatever you would have to pay Arenado to get him to play somewhere else, and whatever you're paying Donovan, and you say to yourself, would you rather spend the $25 million, $20 million, whatever it is, to get Donovan's production, or would you rather spend the $20 million that you're paying Arenado just for Arenado's production? If you say it has to be an either or, you either have Donovan or Arenado on the roster, who do you want to pay that money for the production? So you combine the two together. But even if you don't do that, even if you do that, there's still not room for Gorman and Sajaci and there's still a problem.
That's right.
It has to be more than just one guy being moved.
That's right. And
Yes.
So, that's brilliant. I'm going to steal that idea. Well, actually, I'll give you credit for it when I do a video.
Okay.
That's right, because let's just reiterate really quick. Okay, so you got Weatherholt entering the mix next season, right? And Sajaci's going to be entering the mix later this season or next season. So Gorman could play third if Arenado's not here.
Right.
So that alleviates some of the jam, right? Or, of course, Weatherholt maybe could play third base, right?
Yeah.
I think his arm's good enough. So it would unclog this pipeline that is totally clogged, in terms of having too many guys who play the same position. Yep. Matt Pauley, you're a brilliant man.
Well, and of course, we won't get into this because we don't have time. We're running up on a break now. But also, the guys that you could maybe, play some outfield have played nowhere but the single position they were drafted at. Weatherholt's not playing third base. He's playing mostly short, the position that he will not play for you in the major leagues. Although I will say, he had extensive experience at second at college. He can probably do that without much trouble. But you need to diversify but if you're going to put those guys in the outfield, well, then Newt's got to go. So the point is there's probably at least two guys on the current roster that are in your regular lineups that got to go if you're going to clear this up. And obviously that leads for a lot of discussions that we will continue to have down the road. We got more to talk about. We're going to talk about Ryan Helsley. Later in the show, this is a tease for you guys. You guys don't know this yet, but later in the show, I want to ask about or talk about the impact that the Devers trade actually has on the Cardinals. So we'll talk a bit about that later on. It's the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. I see clearly now thanks to the doctors, Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brusati, and Andy Royer. You can too. YourEyeDoc.com.
Another RX Watch brought to you by Onder Law.
There's an evil new twist
old self.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our matching platform lets you spend less time searching and more time connecting with candidates. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Bernie Miklasz here on behalf of Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. Been serving St. Louis since 1927, almost 100 years. The same family, the Saliga family, taking care of other St. Louis families. We're one of those families. We've been calling on Saliga for about 16, 17 years. So I feel very proud to be able to tell you what we love about them at the Miklasz home. We've relied on them. They set a standard for honesty and knowledge and professionalism and class and prompt service. We have found that they will always look for cheaper solutions for us. They're never going to they've never, in our experience over all this time, have never tried to pressure us into, buying something, going for a major repair job when it wasn't necessary. We trust them 100%. And man, that is a big, big motivation when you're selecting someone in heating and cooling because it's a competitive field. I also just want to remind you, they have an excellent Priority Club maintenance plan. We are in it. We have been in it for a long time. It's going to save you money by extending the life of your current equipment. You'll receive priority scheduling. You'll have the comfort of knowing your home is safe and ready for all seasons. So to get more information on Saliga Heating and Cooling, go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
Hospital Sisters Health System isn't just in your community. We're part of it. Expert care and genuine support backed by a network that puts your health first. HSHS, connected to our community, committed to your health. Visit hshs.org/caring.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom.
At your local CVS, Meyer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, back in on the Redbird Rush Hour. Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. It's time for the Game Day Men's Health Peak Performer. Get back to the top of your game with Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Guys, the guy that is at the top of his game at the moment, you already did all the numbers, Bernie. I just wanted to take this minute to mention Nolan Gorman again. He's been doing the job. He's been the peak performer here the last couple of days. And we didn't bring this up. We can do this here for like 2 minutes. I loved how he punctuated all of the hit by pitch stuff and all of that by hitting a 3-run bomb into oblivion. That was a pretty good. That's how you pay someone back for being stupid and throwing at one of your hitters for a mistake that was made earlier in the game.
I loved it.
Plus, it was off a left-handed pitcher too.
I know, that's the good part.
Yeah, and Gorman's, we're getting some comments. One guy's trashing Gorman because he's terrible defensively.
Yeah, right here.
I ain't saying that Gorman is. I'm going to use a throwback reference. I'm not saying he's Bill Mazeroski. Okay, maybe the greatest defensive second baseman ever, but you're missing the point, champ. The point is, if he is going to hit you 27 home runs and slug 500 and crush right-handed pitching, it's okay if he's a below-average defender. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, there was this thing that came to the National League a couple years ago. It's called the designated hitter. Doesn't have to play defense.
Yeah. The other thing Jed threw in there is if you can't play second, he said won't be able to play third successfully. You can barely play second. Jed, I just want to explain. You do need to understand. Like Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
He came up as a third
They
baseman.
are different skill sets, right? Third baseman is just quick reactions, making good throws, having good hands. Second base is a lot more movement, a lot more cutoffs and relays, a lot more covering of range. Third base is less about range, although range matters, but you have to cover less ground than a middle infielder does. They're different skill sets, and one does not preclude you from being good at the other, either direction.
I have a hard time with this conversation, guys, because I think we need to go to the base level. Gorman's not that bad defensively.
No, he's fine.
He's not a Gold Glover out there, but he's fine. He's
all right.
And think about, like, Tony La Russa's thing was just put an athlete at second base. If they can knock the ball down and throw over to first, it's fine. Gorman came up naturally as a third baseman. I know I'm not a big eye test guy. I like looking at numbers and everything, but the eye test on Gorman says he's not a bad defensive player. He's just a guy.
The word is adequate.
Yeah.
Right? He's not great.
Hey, up until recently, he was a +2 in defensive run save this year.
Yeah.
Now, he's been in a little bit of a fielding slump.
He has.
All of them go through it. And
Yes.
so now he's like -2.
Yeah.
But with the production he's been giving you, he's leading the team in every offensive category since May 26. I don't know about you, you guys. I would trade a couple of errors for all that offense.
I would too.
Yep.
I would too. And by the way, Tony La Russa did it all the time. He put our mutual friend Chris Duncan in left field, who'd never played there because Dunk was hitting, and the defense became secondary. And they did that with more than one guy over the course of their tenure here. So it's not that new.
I think it worked out with the 2006 World Series championship, and Chris Duncan was a big part of that.
Yes,
I think
it was.
so.
Yeah,
So, anyway.
Great point. All right, real quick, we're going to check traffic. When we come back, we're going to talk about Ryan Helsley right here on Redbird Rush Hour.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, it's still tough getting out of downtown. This traffic reports a service of Terrace Senior Living of Eureka. They just recently cleared a crash westbound 70 at Adelaide. It's still jammed back to Salisbury, and there's still a backup from Kings Highway to that stalled tractor trailer in the right lane just past Jennings Station. Southbound 55 is trouble. You have a crash near Bates. It's jammed back to Arsenal, and then there's the crash. The left lane's blocked, the left lane's blocked both directions just south of Loughborough. So there's a jam both ways on 55 at that point. Westbound 64 from Boyle out to McCausland, still on the brakes. 364 to 70 is slow in St. Charles County. South 270 busy, Olive de Ladue. Northbound 170 and southbound 170 are not bad. It's a little busy northbound past the Parkway and at Delmar. Westbound 44 around Elm a little slow. Eastbound 5570 still a jam. East of 111 to 255. Northbound 255 from 162 to 270. And eastbound 270 slow past 157 and approaching the Three Eyes. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Check out the Terrace in Eureka for affordable senior living with 24-hour nursing supervision, delicious meals, medication management, and activities. The Terrace is affordable and will work with your Medicaid plan. Go to rspseniorliving.com and look for the Terrace Private Assisted Living.
All right, we're right back here on the Redbird Rush Hour. Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. So I want to throw this at you, and I'm not saying, you guys, I'm not saying that any of this is easy. I'm not saying this should be automatic, but it is bothersome to me that we haven't figured out how to fix Ryan Helsley's fastball. And by we, I mean the team, because it's still 99.1 miles an hour. There's plenty of velocity. He's not physically diminished. It's the RPMs, the spin rate, the same as it was in the past. I saw on Twitter, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but Jacob Edelman writes for Baseball Prospectus, and he follows a lot of us. He's a really good guy on Twitter to follow. And he actually noticed this, and then I followed up and looked at it. What's really changed over these last few years is Ryan Helsley's arm angle. He's coming at it at a higher angle now than he ever has at any point in his career. It's like 3 degrees higher than last year, 4 or 5 degrees higher than 2023, 2022. And I don't know if that was done intentionally or not, but whatever is going on with that kind of velocity, we should be able to have fixed this now, and nobody should be hitting 400-something against a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, right?
No doubt. And listen, just to update the numbers we've been talking about, this season against right-handed batters, the right-handed batters are 22 for 50. No, excuse me, all opponents, 22 for 50. That's a 440 average with a couple doubles and 2 homers, and they've struck out only 8 times. Right-handed hitters, this is especially concerning because Helsley, of course, throws right-handed. When he throws the 4-seam fastball to a right-handed hitter, 11 for 21. That's a 524 average and a 762 slugging percentage. So the 4-seam fastball is getting crushed by everyone. And you're right, Mr. Wheeler. there has got to be a solution in there somewhere. Why haven't they found it? We're going to ask Ali Marmol that tomorrow on the Gas House Gang at noon.
Good tease.
Part of it has to be throwing the slider a little bit more, and I realize the idea of you want to play the two pitches off each other and you want to be able to throw strikes, but the slider numbers are still fantastic.
Amazing. Nobody hits it.
Yeah, 091 batting average against, expected batting average at 125, slug at 182. To me, I'm dumb. I'm not a very smart person. But to me, throw the slider more and then see if you can start working the four-seamer back
Here's
end.
the funny thing is, so last year, he threw the slider 48% of the time. And it was a good pitch last year. I mean, opponents only hit 171 against it, so that's fine. And he threw the fastball 45% of the time. That was last year. This year, the slider is 45%, and the fastball is 47%. So the one pitch that's not working is the one you're throwing more than you did last year. Now, again, that's not a huge difference. 2% is not a huge difference, but it's still kind of weird. Like, if I'm calling pitches, I'm thinking, well, nobody's hitting the guy's slider. We're throwing lots of sliders, and we're going to show him 100 here and there because we need to.
Yeah.
But, like, it's actually gone the opposite way that you would instinctively think.
43% whiff percentage on the slider compared to 16% on the fastball. Like, just that's my very simplistic take on this.
Yeah, throw more sliders.
And if I could add to that, and the one thing I was researching last week is that I shouldn't say right-handed hitters, all hitters. Helsley, because his control's not as sharp as it has been.
Right.
He's behind in the count a lot. 2-0, hitters, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. Hitters are expecting him to throw the four-seamer when he is behind in the count. It's like they know, okay, he loves to throw the four-seamer here. So, I mean, you got to change the pattern. They know it's coming.
Yeah. Ricky Horton brought that up on DGS with us last week, Bernie, about like some of this is sequencing too, right? Being too predictable. And of course, it's going to be predictable when you're behind in counts. So this is command, and maybe that's been impacted by that arm angle change that was noted. Again, Jacob Edelman's his name. He does some work for Baseball Prospectus. So like he's a smart guy. You may not know the name, but he's a pretty smart guy. I follow him, and he has generally pretty good information and stuff. He's an analytics-minded guy. So I think it's an interesting note that when you're looking at things that change from one year to the next, even something small can change your ability to put your fastball where you want it to be, or to execute it properly. Because these little changes are what people fix in off seasons, and hopefully they can. It sounds like this is very fixable, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gets fixed sooner rather than later. This is not an arm problem where you're like, he's lost 3 miles an hour from one year to the next. That would be very concerning. This should be fixable. Should be. All right. We got one more segment to go. I want to throw at you guys how I think, and I'll see what you guys react to it, how I think that the Rafael Devers trade really impacts the Cardinals. Like, I really think it does, because it makes the National League that much harder and makes making the playoffs that much harder. We'll talk a bit about that coming up next. Right now, I want to tell you about my friends at Game Day Men's Health. You can find them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Look, they have answers for a lot of things that might be bugging you, man. We're talking about finding answers for ball players and why they can't fix things. Game Day Men's Health, they have solutions, and these are science-based. Everything's overseen by board-certified physicians, right? So all these solutions are science-based. They know exactly what they're doing. So I went in there 4 months ago, and, the same general complaint that probably most guys my age, I'm 53, have. I don't have the energy that I used to. I feel tired more than I want to. My legs get heavy. I don't recover from workouts or exercise the way that I used to, the way that I want to. So we went through the consultation, did a blood test, found out my testosterone was low. I wasn't doing anything that made it that way. It's just that way. So I went through the testosterone replacement therapy, and now every day is better. Every single day is noticeably better. Workouts are better. Coaching days on the outside, like being outside for 6, 7, 8 hours in the heat, better. Everything is better since I started the treatment when it comes to how I feel. You can find that same kind of answer, whether you're looking for maybe TRTs for you, maybe you're looking at ED treatments, maybe you're talking about medical weight loss. They have all kinds of great answers. Everything is overseen by professionals. The staff is great. You get in and out real fast, and you'll get one price explained up front. That's it. Any adjustments that come along with treatments are going to be included in that price. So there are 3 area locations. I go to the Chesterfield and the O'Fallon, Missouri locations. You can find out more at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back to the top of your game with Game Day Men's Health.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Zero Res wants to help you clean your home or business. Big summer savings with 3 rooms clean starting at just $129. $75 off your air duct cleaning. Visit Zero Res.
Traveling on the Illinois side, we still have the backup eastbound 5570 east of 255 to east of 111 to 255, and eastbound 270 coming off northbound 255 is heavy past 157, and still have some backed up traffic, especially southbound 157 from 270 to 162. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
All right, Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX. Got Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you for a few more minutes, and then Matt Pauley's got you for Sports Open Line from 6 until 8, so a lot more baseball to run through here. So yesterday, the big news that blew up Major League Baseball was the trade of Rafael Devers from the Red Sox to the Giants. We don't need to go back over the reasons why it happened. There are a lot, some on the Red Sox, a lot more of it to me on Devers, but he is now a member of the San Francisco Giants, and as I thought about the deal last night, you guys, one of the conclusions I came to is that this just made contending in the National League that much harder.
Yeah.
The Dodgers already exist. They're not going to stop doing what they do. Neither is Steve Cohen in New York. The Phillies are not going to stop spending. They're going to always be one of those teams that's going to be pushing it. The Braves stink this year. They have a great core locked up, and they've spent some money in the past. We know the Cubs have the ability to do what they want to with their payroll, even though they don't. And now you add the Giants, not just as a team trying to do it, but a team that has added a megastar to a team that was already 10 games over 500. And then the Padres, who keep on trying and keep on working at it, not just for this year, guys, but for the coming years. This life's going to be tough in the National League.
Even before this trade, the reality check is that the Giants were already in great position to get a wild card. Let me just read you this really quick. Playoff probability or wild card probability at Fangraphs, right? Giants, and this is before the trade, 57%, Philadelphia 47, almost 48%, the Padres 39%, Diamondbacks 32%, Atlanta 28%, Milwaukee 20%, and the Cardinals 15%. So listen, they got the best hitter that will be traded in 2025.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Giants.
Yeah.
And it fits their greatest need because their offense has really been lagging, and it's the only real weakness they have. And it was a great trade for the Giants, who want to win now. And the people they gave up, Harrison will be a good pitcher.
Yep.
But they don't need him right now.
Right.
And, we had someone talking about, well, how come the Cardinals can't make trades in June? You do realize that the Giants are going to owe Devers $300 million just about the remainder of his contract. So How many teams are lining up to take on a $300 million contract?
Yeah.
That's why that's the only reason why that trade was made.
Yeah. And to put it into context, though, Harrison is their Quinn Matthews, and rated even higher. I mean, he's been a top 100 prospect for years before he used up his prospect eligibility. And Tibbs is your Weatherholt. That's your first-round pick from last year, number 14 pick overall. So, I'm not saying you wouldn't do that. I'm just saying take your top 2 prospects because that's who you'd have to trade to make that kind of deal possible.
And I appreciate, Kevin, you talking about the long-term implications. From a short-term standpoint, when the season got started, the general consensus was the only Cardinals' path to the postseason was by winning the division. Well, then the Braves and the Diamondbacks did not play as well as we expected them to play, and the Cubs have been even better than we expected them to, so the dynamic has changed, where now it feels like the higher probability chance for the Cardinals to be a playoff team is via the wild card. 2 days ago, we say, how much better are the Giants really than the Cardinals when the Cardinals are playing their best versus, we had that conversation a lot, Kevin.
Yeah.
So now the Giants just added.
Their best is a lot better.
A big-time hitter, and that changes the dynamic of the wild card race for this year. Can the Cardinals catch the Phillies, Giants, or Padres?
Sure.
That's the question at this point.
Yeah, and we don't know that answer yet. We're going to find out in the next, what would you guys say, the next 4 weeks, and then it's time to make some decisions. How do you do it? Are you going to go to get better, or is it still going to be about playing it out and then seeing where things stand next year? I mean, we'll know a lot more when you're done with this Cubs series here in a week and a half, right?
Well, the Cardinals are not going to be making any major moves where they're going to have to give up something, substantial to get something substantial in return. They're just not going to do that.
Yep.
So if they do anything, it's just going to be kind of like nickel and dime stuff, and that sometimes that stuff works really well.
Sure.
They could use a bench, for example, which they don't have pretty much, except for backup catcher. Yeah, bullpen.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what they tried to do last year, and it didn't work with Fetty and Pham.
No, it did not. So maybe a little different approach. All right, well, boys, we're out of time. Man, we didn't get to, I think maybe got 30% of what I think we could have gotten to. But that's why Sports Open Line's coming up, and we'll be doing this all week long to cover more of these things. Bernie, have a great night. Matt, have a great night. Boys, we'll talk to you soon. Redbird Rush Hour here on your home for the Cardinals. No game tonight. Cardinals get back at it tomorrow, starting a 3-game series against the White Sox. Then it's the Reds, and then it's the Cubs. So a big stretch coming up, and we'll have it all for you here on KMOX.
You had a solid retirement dream.